The Bedtime Files. Episode 1. The Stories Were Never Stories.
Chapter 1. The Black Box. Do not listen to this with children in the room. Do not play it near a mirror. And if there is an old bedtime storybook in your house, close it before this recording ends, because 3 nights ago I found out fairy tales are not fiction. They are government cover stories. Cinderella, Snow White, Little Red Riding Hood, Hansel and Gretel, Sleeping Beauty, Jack and the Beanstalk, The 3 Little Pigs, Goldilocks, Peter Pan, all of them. We were told they were stories, simple warnings for children. Do not talk to strangers. Do not wander into the woods. Do not take food from strange houses. Do not open the door when you are home alone. But that was never the real warning. The real warning was this. The stories? Remember being told. And the more people who hear them, the easier it is for them to come back. My name is Vale. I worked as an archivist for the county records office in Ashwood, West Virginia. It was boring work. Old property deeds, court files, school records, death certificates, boxes of forgotten paper that nobody alive cared about anymore. Then the flood happened. A storm tore through Ashwood last month. It hit so hard that the old courthouse basement cracked open. Water poured in through the walls. The power went out. By morning, the basement looked like a graveyard for documents. My job was to save anything that could still be read. For 2 weeks, I sat in a back room, wearing gloves, peeling apart wet papers, and scanning what survived. Most of it was normal. Then I found the black box. It was not cardboard. It was metal, heavy, military grade, no rust, no water damage. The lock had been cut years ago, but the lid was sealed with red tape. On the tape were 6 words: children's literature, cover story material. At first I thought it was a joke, maybe an old school board archive, maybe banned books, maybe some strange education program from the 70s. Inside were cassette tapes, photographs, film reels, and one thin blue binder. There was no title on the front, only a stamp. Site, Blackbriar, Bedtime Division. Public version authorization required. I opened it. The first page was a list of story titles: Little Red Riding Hood, Cinderella, Snow White, Hansel and Gretel, Sleeping Beauty, The 3 Little Pigs, Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, Jack and the Beanstalk, Peter Pan. I almost laughed. Someone had gone through a lot of trouble to protect fairy tales. Then I turned the page. There was a photograph of a forest clearing. A little girl in a red coat stood beside a medical examiner. Her face was blurred. Her hands were covered in something dark. Behind her was a small cottage. The front door had been ripped off its hinges. Under the photo was a typed note: Incident Red 04. Subject survived by hiding inside grandmother's wardrobe. Predator demonstrated a vocal imitation of maternal figure. Public version approved. The wolf tricked the girl. I stared at those words for a long time. Public version approved. Not draft, not fiction, not legend. Approved. Like the fairy tale was a press release. I kept reading. The next file was labeled Cinder Protocol. There was a photo of a glass slipper sealed inside an evidence bag. It looked delicate, almost beautiful, until I noticed the dark stain inside the heel. A warning tag was tied to it. Do not reunite paired artifacts. Do not allow clock access after 11:59 p.m. Do not place subject in household environment. The next file was Snow White. A young woman lay inside a transparent medical chamber. Her skin was pale. Her lips were almost blue. Wires were taped to her temples. On the wall beside her was a black mirror covered by 3 steel shutters. The note said, Mirror entity remains active even when covered. Do not ask comparative questions. Do not say fairest. Do not bring apples into the wing. That was when my hands started shaking, because this was not a prank. This was too detailed, too cold, too official. Then I found my brother's name. Benjamin Vale, age 8, status unrecovered, classification pan event, window contact, public version runaway. My brother Ben disappeared when I was 12. He vanished from his bedroom on a rainy Tuesday night. The police said he climbed out the window and ran away. My parents never believed that. I never believed it either. Ben was afraid of the dark. He would not even walk to the bathroom at night without waking me up first. The night he vanished, his window was open, but the screen was still locked from the inside. There was mud on the ceiling, not the floor, the ceiling. For years, there was one thing I never told anyone. I thought I had dreamed it. At 2:14 in the morning, I heard Ben laughing. Not from his room, from outside my second-story window. Then a boy's voice whispered,
"Come on, Ben. You do not have to grow up here."
The file had a photograph attached. Ben's bedroom, his open window, the muddy ceiling, and one note underneath. Pan recruiter confirmed. Subject likely retained with lost cohort. Public memory softened. Family monitoring discontinued after 6 years. I do not remember standing up. I do not remember knocking over the chair. I only remember that phrase, public memory softened. They did not just hide what happened to my brother. They changed how people remembered it. That night, I stole the binder. I know how that sounds. I know stealing government files makes me sound guilty. Maybe unstable, maybe insane. But when your missing brother's life is reduced to a fairy tale category, laws stop feeling real. I took the tapes too. At home, I found an old cassette player in my dad's garage. I put the first tape on my kitchen table. The label said, Red Hood interview, raw witness audio, do not release. I pressed play.
State your name for the record.
They told me not to talk about him.
Who told you?
The men in the gray coats.
What did the wolf say to you?
It was not a wolf.
Then what was it?
It sounded like Grandma.
What did it say?
It said, "Open the door, Little Red. I am sick. I need you." But Grandma was already dead in the bed.
I stopped the tape. My kitchen went silent. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I stared at it until it almost went to voicemail. Then I answered.
Mara Vale?
I did not speak.
My name is Dr. Leona Wren. You opened the Blackbriar archive.
I backed away from my kitchen window. How do you know that?
Because when you open those files, they open you back.
That sentence made no sense, but somehow I understood it. Dr. Wren told me she used to work at Site Blackbriar. She said it was officially shut down in 1998, but it was never abandoned, only reduced, automated, forgotten by everyone except the people paid to keep forgetting it. Then she said something I still wish I had never heard.
The stories were never created to entertain children, Mara. They were created to protect them.
What do you mean?
We took real incidents and softened them. We removed the blood. We changed the endings. We turned survival procedures into bedtime lessons.
Why?
Because children remember stories better than warnings. Your brother is why the box was sent to your courthouse.
My throat closed. What does that mean?
It means someone wanted you to find it.
Who?
Maybe Ben.
She gave me an address. The Milton Children's Sleep Center, 12 miles outside Ashwood. Everyone in town knew the place. It was an abandoned pediatric sleep clinic near the woods. Parents used to threaten kids with it when they misbehaved. Keep acting like that and we will send you to Milton. The clinic closed before I was born. At least, that is what we were told. Dr. Wren told me not to use the front gate. She said there was a storm drain behind the old playground. The drain led to a maintenance hatch. Before she hung up, I asked one question. What is really under that clinic?
The reason your mother told you never to answer voices at night?
Before we go deeper into Site Blackbriar, I want to know what you think. If fairy tales were actually government cover stories, which one do you think would be the most dangerous if it was real? Cinderella, Snow White, Little Red Riding Hood, Hansel and Gretel, or Peter Pan? Comment your answer below. Chapter 2. Site Blackbriar. Then the line went dead. I should have called the police. I should have sent the files to every news station I could find. I should have stayed home with the lights on. Instead, I drove to Milton. The clinic sat behind a chain-link fence at the end of a cracked service road. The sign out front was half covered in vines. Milton Children's Sleep Center. Helping families rest easy since 1966. The building was 4 stories tall, gray, rotten, water-stained. Faded cartoon animals were painted across the entrance. A smiling bear, a little pig, a blonde girl holding a bowl of porridge. Behind the building was the playground. The swings moved even though there was no wind. I found the storm drain exactly where Dr. Wren said it would be. The grate was already loose. That should have stopped me. It did not. I climbed down into the dark. The tunnel smelled like rainwater, rust, and something sweet, like cake, left too long in a hot room. After maybe 50 yards, my flashlight hit a steel door set into the wall. There was no handle, only a keypad. Before I could touch it, the screen lit up.
Welcome back, Mara.
Then the lock clicked open. The hallway beyond was not abandoned. The lights were on. Dim yellow strips ran along the ceiling. The floor was polished concrete. The walls were covered in old children's wallpaper. Moons, stars, clouds, castles. At the end of the hall was a security window. Behind the glass sat a skeleton in a gray suit. Its ID badge read, Agent Rowan Pike, Bedtime Division. I almost ran. Then a speaker crackled above me.
Mara?
It was my mother. Not close, not recorded. Exactly my mother. Soft, tired, worried, the way she sounded when I had nightmares as a kid.
Mara, honey, do not go down there.
I froze. My mother had been dead for 6 years.
Come back upstairs, sweetheart. I am scared.
I covered my ears. Then another voice joined hers.
Mara, I found a way out.
Every part of me wanted to answer, but I did not. That was the first rule I learned inside Blackbriar. Never answer a voice that wants you to prove you recognize it. I kept walking. The hallway opened into an enormous archive room, and that was where I saw the truth. Rows and rows of shelves stretched into the dark. Not patient charts, not medical records. Fairy tale files. Thousands of them. Every story had 2 binders, one red, one blue. The red binder was labeled Raw Incident. The blue binder was labeled Public Version. I opened the nearest file. The 3 Little Pigs. The Raw Incident described 3 siblings placed in witness protection after something stalked their rural home for 11 nights. It did not blow houses down. It tested building materials. Straw, wood, brick. Every night it learned. Every night it got closer. The Public Version turned it into a wolf with bad lungs. The next file was Goldilocks. The Raw Incident was not about a little girl wandering into a bear's house. It was about a blonde child found inside a government test home. She had tested food temperatures, chair strength, bed softness, door locks, wall thickness. The note said, subject searches for just right conditions. When found, family entity manifests. Do not allow environmental balance. I closed the file. Behind me, something tapped on glass. I turned. Across the archive room was a viewing window. Behind it stood a girl in a red cloak. Her face was hidden under the hood. The speaker beside the window clicked on.
She is not the wolf.
The girl slowly raised one hand, then she pointed behind me. I turned too late. Something breathed against my ear and whispered in Ben's voice.
You got so old.
I screamed and swung my flashlight. There was nothing there. Only a long hallway leading deeper underground. A sign above it read, Public Sanitization Wing. I kept going, maybe because of Ben. Maybe because once you learn your childhood was built on a lie, the only direction left is down. The sanitization wing looked like a publishing office after a disaster. Typewriters sat on desks. Storyboards covered the walls. Crayon drawings were pinned beside autopsy photos. Editors' notes were written in red ink. One wall had a slogan painted across it. A frightened public feeds the old stories. A sleeping public survives them. On one desk, I found a memo dated 1974. It said, Children retain safety instructions more effectively through repetition, rhyme, and moral framing. Continued distribution of softened narratives through schools, libraries, media, and bedtime culture. Remove direct references to federal involvement, containment failure, mass casualty events, and missing children. At the bottom, someone had written, Happily ever after. Tests well. Use whenever possible. That was when I understood. Happily ever after did not mean everyone survived. It meant the case was closed. A metal door opened behind me. A man stepped through. He was tall, pale, clean-shaven. He wore the same gray suit as the skeleton upstairs. For 1 second, I thought he was alive. Then I saw the badge. Agent Rowan Pike. Same name, same face, not older, not dead, just standing there, like he had been waiting since the 1970s.
Mara Vale, you are not authorized to be here.
I ran. He did not. That was worse. He walked after me like he already knew where I would end up. I crashed through a double door into the royal wing. Every clock on the wall read 11:59. Not one of them ticked. The first chamber on my left was full of ash. A single glass slipper sat on a pedestal in the center. Above it, a red warning light. Cinder subject. Do not reunite pair. The room beside it was colder. A glass coffin rested under white surgical lights. Inside was Snow White. I knew it before I read the label. Her skin was pale as paper. Her hair was black. Her lips were the color of old blood. She did not look dead. She looked paused. Across from her chamber was the mirror. It was covered by steel shutters, but I could still feel it looking at me. A printer beside the door came to life. One page slid out, then another, then another. Each page had a name. Helena Voss. Fairness Index, 72%. Rowan Pike. Fairness Index, 41%. Leona Wren. Fairness Index, 66%. Then one page printed slower than the rest. Mara Vale. Fairness. Index. Error. The printer stopped. Then one final page came out. Benjamin Vale. Fairness. Index. Not human enough to measure. I grabbed the page. The lights turned red. Somewhere deep in the facility, an alarm began to scream.
This is Director Voss. Site Blackbriar has entered breach condition. All staff, report to your stations. If you encounter Mara Vale, do not terminate. She is now part of the narrative.
Part of the narrative. That phrase followed me as I ran. I found Dr. Wren in the stairwell, between sub-level 4 and sub-level 5. She was older than I expected. Her hair was silver. Her forehead was bleeding. There was a pistol shaking in her hand. When she saw me, she almost cried.
I am sorry.
For what?
For helping them write the stories.
She led me down. The alarms grew louder. So did the voices. The wolf had gotten into the speaker system, or whatever people used to call the wolf. It spoke as mothers, fathers, sisters, dead husbands, lost children. It begged, it threatened, it apologized. At one point, it used my own voice.
Mara, do not trust Wren. She let Ben go.
I looked at Dr. Wren. She did not deny it. Chapter 3, The Pan Wing. The stairwell ended at the wood level. Imagine a forest built by people who had only read about forests in reports. Fake trees, rubber bark, artificial fog, speakers hidden in branches, cameras disguised as birdhouses. But something had changed. Real moss crawled over the floor. Real roots split the concrete. The air smelled like wet fur and gingerbread. In the distance, a small house glowed warmly between the trees. Its walls were candy. Its windows were sugar. Its chimney smoked.
Do not look hungry.
What?
It responds to hunger.
I am not hungry.
Everyone is hungry for something.
The house creaked. The front door opened by itself. From inside came the smell of fresh bread, hot butter, cinnamon, soup. I thought of every night my mother forgot dinner after Ben disappeared, because grief had eaten the whole house.
Come in, you poor thing.
Dr. Wren fired one shot into the air. The spell broke just enough for us to run. Behind us, the candy house folded open like a mouth. There was no monster inside the house. The house was the monster. We ran until the forest became a hallway. The hallway became a service tunnel. The tunnel became a nursery. That was sub-level 6, the Pan Wing. Every wall was painted midnight blue with tiny yellow stars. There were beds lined up in rows, but no children, only shadows. Hundreds of them. Small shadows on the walls, small shadows under the beds, small shadows hanging from the ceiling, like paper cutouts. They moved even when nothing moved with them. At the center of the room was a window, a real window, that made no sense. We were 6 levels underground. Beyond it was a night sky full of stars. A boy sat on the windowsill. He looked 12, bare feet, messy hair, a smile too wide for his face. Beside him stood my brother. Ben had not aged, not one day. He wore the same dinosaur pajama shirt he disappeared in. I could not breathe. Ben? His head tilted. For a moment, his face looked confused, like he was trying to remember how to be human. Then he smiled.
Mara, you got old.
The same words the thing had whispered earlier, but this time, they broke me. I stepped forward. Dr. Wren held me back.
That might not be him.
Do not listen to her. She writes endings.
I do not like endings.
Dr. Wren raised the pistol. The boy's shadow moved before he did. It stretched across the floor, long and thin. Then it wrapped around her wrist. She screamed. The gun fell. Ben looked at me with eyes that were almost my brother's.
Come with us. You do not have to finish growing up.
I wanted to. God help me, I wanted to. Not because Neverland was beautiful, because it was easy. No grief, no aging, no bills, no funerals, no empty bedrooms, no parents dying with one child still missing. Just stars, just flight, just forgetting. That was the horror of the boy at the window. Not that he steals children, but that he offers them exactly what pain makes them want. I took one step toward the window, then Ben's shadow turned its head before Ben did. It looked at me and smiled. My brother never smiled like that. I grabbed a Dr. Wren and ran.
Mara, do not leave me here.
And that is where this part of the Bedtime Files ends. Mara found the Blackbriar archive. She entered Site Blackbriar, and now she has finally found Ben, or something wearing his face. But I need your theory. Do you think that was really Ben in the Pan Wing? Or do you think the thing at the window is using him to make Mara stay? Comment, that's Ben or that's not Ben below. And I want to know this too. Which file scared you the most so far? The Red Hood incident, Cinderella's slipper, Snow White's mirror, the gingerbread house, or the panwing. If you enjoyed chapters 1 through 3, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment your theories. It helps the channel grow, and it lets me know you want the next part of the Bedtime Files. Because Mara is still inside Blackbriar, Dr. Wren is still hiding the truth, and Ben is still screaming for her not to leave. Until next time, lock your doors, check your mirrors, and if you hear someone whisper, "Once upon a time," do not answer.
You've been listening to Narrated Nightmares.